Hey guys, this is Lauren Schaller in our capstone graduate course, and I wanted to do a video of my data analysis and interpretation because it just is kind of messy, and I feel like there's a few things I need to explain or that I would be more comfortable explaining. So what I did for this assignment was it was really a survey, but I tabulated the answers that my students got correct. And the point of the assignment that I gave to my students was just for them to practice using the quizzes technology, or the website quizzes. And our instructional coaches of our school suggested that we have all of our students practice the technology before actually using it to really fully grade them on it. So for this assignment, and it actually didn't matter what score they got, as long as they did it, they got a participation grade for it, just to get the practice with the technology. But I took this opportunity back in September, right at the start of the year. You can see September 4th is when I did this. I was curious to know what my students knew about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So I gave them this quiz, which was mostly questions defining the topics, but some of the associated words. So you can see that the questions asked of them on the left here were, okay, defining, what is science, what is technology, engineering, math, what is algebra, what are statistics, what is data, what is biology, what are the periodic table of the elements, by robotics. There is a question that's not a definition in here. This is having to do with environmental science. I teach environmental science, so I was just seeing if they understood that social studies is part of environmental science, and a few other concepts. So I just wanted to see what they knew, and I told them that their scores didn't matter. So it was kind of like a survey, but because of the quantified nature of it, and because that's where the road I'm heading down for my study, I wanted to do this. So it was really easy to do this assignment because Quizzes actually does a report and tabulates a lot of this stuff for you. So I just had to go in and tweak it a little bit to get what I wanted out of it. There is something I have to say. I went ahead and you can see every kid is listed here. I chopped off the ones, and you can see I replaced their name with what grade they're in. So these juniors, freshmen, and seniors is mainly what I teach. There were some of these scores at the end here that were complete zeros, not responding to anything. You can see this last one responded to one question, which is how they stayed in. And I wanted to eliminate that, but then I realized that messed up some of these tabulations over here. So just so you know, I know that this, you can see the sum is 132, and that's not actually what I'm counting as my sum because I excluded those total 0% scores. So I wanted to see what the average was, what the average score mean was for each question. So as I did that, I calculated that by getting the number correct out of the ones who attempted it. So I didn't include the ones who didn't attempt the question at all. So out of the ones who tried the question, what was the average score? So I just took, for instance, here the 36 out of the 120, and I got the 30%. And then I went through and did that for each question, and I took the lowest averages and put them in yellow, next lowest in orange, highest in blue, and next highest in purple. Because I was curious to see if I could find any trends here, and I'm not too surprised by what I found. You can see that one of the lowest questions is the definition of technology. Some confused it with engineering, which is actually pretty understandable. I could see that. The lowest scored question was the definition of mechanics, the branch of physics that addresses the effect of forces on matter. That makes a lot of sense to me because that's more of a physics question, and our students are not required to take physics. Our students are taking, in freshman science, quite a bit of biology and ecology. They're all required to take biology. And then they have a choice as to what their third science is, and they don't have to take a fourth science. So some might not even get to that physics course. Now, a lot of our students are interested in going to college, and depending on what they're going into, they might choose to take physics. So, but it doesn't surprise me that a physics question would be lowest. And in ninth grade science, we don't teach physics at all, or at least we're not required to. We don't really have time to. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But, this kind of like, I don't know how interpretive, but it kind of makes me, this spurs some questions for me. I wonder how many more physics questions they might have trouble with. The definition of an engineer, it looks like they struggled with that one and confused engineer with scientist. But the question were, person who uses the scientific method to discover new knowledge, that's one of the highest scored questions. They understood the concept of a scientist. But I find it interesting, some of them thought that these were both a scientist, a person who uses science to solve practical problems. So some of them got a little confused there. A lot of them understood hypothesis. The word cyber, a prefix, that usually means computer, which I guess, because that's in pretty common knowledge. We hear that a lot in our daily lives. And then another word for code, they didn't really know the difference between cipher and encryption. So I see that as more of a technology question. And they were kind of mid-range on some of the other ones. Some of these math questions, they did pretty well. One of the highest scored answers was the branch of mathematics and involves expressions with variables. And a lot of them got that that's algebra. And a lot of them, 72% of them understood that math, the definition of it, is the abstract science of numbers, quantity, and space. So I thought that was kind of an interesting breakdown there. So I took these average scores and got a different number than what I'm going to show you on the other sheet. But anyway, this is, if you took the average for each class, and these were of those attempted. So I think that's what part of the disparity is. And I took those and I got an average of 58%. Oops. Then I have this data sheet, and this also was generated by quizzes, and I just went in and tweaked some things. For instance, I wrote in the name, I covered up the name and put in what grade the student is in. And then this shows you each student and their accuracy. So it wasn't a percentage, but in order to sort this, I took out the percentage, and this is 96%, and I put it back to a 0.96. And then I listed it from top to bottom, so the highest score is here, and then all the way down here, and I chopped off the scores that were zeros. So this is a list of 124 total. And then I calculated out of these 124 total, scores on how much they got right, I got an average of 61%, a mean of 61%. And then I went ahead and did the total breakdown here. Where I said, okay, this is the group of A's, B's, C, D's, and F's. And clearly you can see that the highest number out of this 124, 47 got an F, 38 got a D, and then it just gets lower and lower the higher up you go. Then I went and sorted this according to what grade the students are in. So I wanted to see how the freshmen, juniors, and seniors did in this breakdown. The freshmen and juniors had their highest percentages in the F category, and with D's coming close. The freshmen, actually there was one more who got a B than a C, but the juniors follow this progression pretty well. The seniors had an interesting spread, and for this I would love to assess. I'd like to get this STEM quiz to more seniors. I have the least amount of seniors, and again, seniors don't have to take a fourth science unless they want to, or there's some other factor there. But interesting how widespread the scores were, and the least amount failed. And this is just my calculation off to the side. These numbers here are my calculation of the standard deviation, which you'll see in the written post. So I found this kind of interesting. They didn't have to do well on this quiz, so it's possible that they just clicked on things without even looking to see what they were. But I feel like in knowing them, a lot of them did really think about it. think about their answers. And I think there might have been one or two that took it more than once, which might have affected the results as well. So there's a lot of possible failures in this, or things not accounted for, some errors in this, but I think this still has a lot of good information in it, and I wouldn't mind if I did my classes in a more STEM manner to give them as a pre-assessment and a post-assessment. And you can see my standard deviation briefly below is quite large. And so I think I did an okay job of explaining this data, and thanks for watching this video.